Alton Towers is one of Europe's premier theme parks. Located in the beautiful countryside of England, this park is the most popular in the country, and for good reason. It seems like everyone I've talked to who's gone here has had nothing but positive things to say about it, and having visited a few weeks ago, I can definitely back that up. Alton Towers has all the makings of a truly elite theme park. It's filled with a diverse range of thrilling roller coasters, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's run very well. Despite those qualities though, there's one thing I felt was missing from this park, and it's one that I feared before I came to visit. And in my opinion, it's the only thing holding Alton Towers back from pure excellence. But what is it, and more importantly, is the park willing and able to make a change regarding it that I believe will greatly benefit Alton Towers and make it one of the best theme parks in the world? Let's find out. Alton Towers has a long and storied history. I'm not going to get super in-depth with it here, but it's the site of a battle that took place in the 700s. The towers and gardens themselves were part of an estate that was owned by different royals throughout the past few hundred years. Eventually, it was available for the public to visit, and Alton Towers was transformed into what it is today. The rise of the park to becoming one of Europe's best was mostly due to the innovation that Alton Towers had to make when building new rides. This is a place where nothing is allowed to be built above the tree line, and the park can't tamper with anything historical on the property. As a result, Alton Towers has to be really creative in order to introduce new thrilling experiences that fit within their restrictions. John Wardley was one of the leaders on the Alton Towers creative team for many years and is one of the main people responsible for making Alton Towers what it is today. Working with many different manufacturers, Wardley and the rest of the creatives would introduce the Secret Weapons, a planning name for each of the new record-breaking projects Alton Towers would build. The first three successful secret weapon projects were all B&Ms built within a 9-year span. The first was Nemesis, a terrain-hugging inverted coaster that is praised as one of the best of the model. It's currently undergoing a major retrack and overhaul, so I was not able to ride it. Oblivion was the world's first dive coaster, and Air, now known as Galactica, was the world's first B&M flying coaster. 13, Smiler, and Wickerman were all secret weapons as well, opening later. Rita, Runaway Mine Train, Spinball Whizzer, and Octonauts Roller Coaster Adventure are also coasters at the park, but these didn't break any records and thus were not known through design as secret weapons. But how do these coasters ride? Well, they're all good. There's no coaster at this park that I would consider amazing or elite, and that's one of the downsides to being a park that receives new models or ideas in the beginning of their designs. The concepts that they're getting haven't been perfected. I have no doubt this idea of rides that haven't really been seen before was great for the time period, but as of today it makes a lot of Alton Towers' coasters feel a bit outdated. So that's the problem. This park needs a new modern coaster that will function as a clear standout for the park. We're seeing it at Thorpe with Exodus, another park that had that issue, but I think it's much more apparent here. Alton Towers is a destination for many people in the UK as well as enthusiasts all around the world. But as of now, their coaster collection is packed with supporting coasters and lacking a standout, at least for my personal view of the rides at the park. I rode the 6 major operating coasters at the park during my 2 days there. I did not experience Nemesis due to the retrack Spinball Whizzer as it was closed for the first part of this season, and I decided not to wait nearly an hour for Runaway Mine Train or Octonauts. So I'm going to go over those 6 coasters, so hopefully you get an idea of what I'm talking about when I say this park needs a new big coaster. I'll go in order of worst to best, so this will kind of function as a ranking as well. Be warned, there are some unpopular opinions coming. Oblivion was the world's first dive coaster, and right off the bat this ride just doesn't compare with the other coasters of its model. It's fun and enjoyable without a doubt, and I rode it multiple times when I was at the park, but the drop is probably the worst iteration of one on a dive I've done, and the layout is definitely not great, if you could even call it a layout. That being said, I still liked it, and there's no bad coaster at Alton Towers. 13 could have been executed so much better. There are sections that I really enjoy. There's spoilers for this ride if you don't know about the surprises, like the section in the shed or whatever with all the theming, the drop track, and then the backwards section. But the rest of the ride is admittedly a bit dull. The outdoor portion at the beginning feels like a normal family coaster, and it would have been really cool if the so-called launch at the end propels you into another part of the layout. 13 is a really unique version of a family coaster, but I felt like there was a lot more potential for this ride that it just didn't reach. Galactica is pretty good. It's only the second flyer I've been on after Manta, and while it's not as good as Manta, it still packs in an enjoyable ride experience. The section when you're on your back is the best part of the ride and pulls some decent positives. That being said, there's not too much else in terms of extreme forces, but I can tell that's definitely not what Galactica is trying to be. It's simulating the feeling of flight, a roller coaster concept that was revolutionary at the time, and even though there's lots of other coasters that do it now, this ride still holds up today as a solid supporting coaster for the park. If you ask a coaster enthusiast what their favorite coaster at Alton Towers is, chances are they'd say the Smiler, especially since Nemesis is gone for the season. But this ride just didn't live up to the expectations I had for it. None of the 14 inversions are anywhere near elite, and the track work is subpar at best, with notable jolts toward the end of the ride. That being said, the Smiler is still undoubtedly enjoyable. Flipping upside down that many times with some nice airtime sprinkled in, and the whole environment that this coaster has is incredibly special, and every time I came off this ride, I came off smiling. Rita is better than the Smiler. There, I said it. It might be due to the fact that I only rode Rita in the front and never rode Smiler in the front, but that's what assigned seating on some rides does. Anyway, I can only go by my personal experience. Rita's got a fantastic launch and intense layout. It's not phenomenal and is basically a worse version of Desert Race at Hyde Park, but it's still great and my second favorite coaster in the park. Then you have Wicker Man. Now, when a family thrill GCI is my favorite coaster in the park with a supposedly elite coaster collection, that pretty much sums up my feelings about this park needing a modern standout. But as of now, this is the modern standout. Wicker Man packs in a much more intense ride experience than its stats might lead you to believe. It flies through its layout, delivering aggressive laterals and some really nice airtime. It's definitely not my favorite GCI and barely squeaks into my top 25, but Wicker Man is the best coaster at Alton Towers, at least in my opinion. So hopefully now you understand where I'm coming from by saying Alton Towers needs a standout. Each of these rides fills a very important role in our lineup, but they're all supporting coasters. I know a lot of people might say that Smiler's the clear standout and it's amazing, or, well, you didn't ride Nemesis, that's the clear standout. I feel like Alton Towers deserves a truly world-class roller coaster beyond an inversion-focused Gerstlauer or a B&M invert because it's that good of a park. But like I said, this park has a lot of restrictions on what and where it can build, so introducing a coaster of a super large scale would be tough. One of the most important things for a theme park to have is a great ride lineup consisting of roller coasters, flat rides, dark rides, and water rides. And while a lot of people have said that Alton Towers has an elite lineup of attractions, like I talked about, I think there's a lot that could be done to improve it. Recently, the park's made some big changes, like removing Enterprise and renovating Duel to the Curse of Alton Manor. It shows that the people in charge are really paying attention to what their park needs. One thing I did not think was a good move, though, was the introduction of the Retro Squad. These are 3 different 80s themed flat rides with 2 in X Sector and 1 in Forbidden Valley. And let me just say, these do not work well at all in the park. While I definitely think that Alton Towers would benefit from a few more great flats, tacky carnival rides that negate the environment around them wasn't the way to go. There was no message asking to bring funktastic thrills to this park. This does not make me feel totally rad. I hope these rides are as temporary as they look. There's also the world of David Walliams, which, I'm going to be honest, I never stepped foot in, as well as some other rides like the Alton Towers Dungeon. This park's ride lineup is by no means bad, but now let's look at a few things that I would do to improve it, both from a business and enthusiast's perspective. CBeebies Land is Alton Towers' kids area, themed to characters from the British Kids TV channel. This was a huge win for the park when it was added, and I saw a ton of young kids in there. As of now, though, this land is pretty small in terms of area, and there's not too much available room to expand. One possibility that I could see is the removal of Spinball Whizzer. This is located right next to CBeebies Land and would be a really good plot of land for a possible expansion to that kids area. Even though it wasn't open when I went, Spinball Whizzer seemed like a weird fit for the park. It's kind of in that same boat as those Retro Squad rides with a classic carnival-esque feel, and although I'd be sad to see it go, I definitely think its removal makes sense for the park, business-wise. So now, without a spinning coaster at the park, I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say what I think would be a perfect addition for Alton Towers, a Mock Rides Extreme spinning coaster. I might just be crazy for this model since I loved Ride to Happiness so much, but to me it honestly makes a lot of sense. It'd give them that standout, it'd bring that wow factor, and you could theme it to whatever you want. It wouldn't even have to be that tall. Time Traveler and Ride to Happiness are both around 100 feet in height, so Alton Towers could easily fit a shorter ride of that type in, especially if they were willing to modify the terrain. Merlin's already working with Mock on a major roller coaster with Project Exodus at Thorpe Park, and I think if that ends up being successful, we could definitely see another large-scale addition from the same manufacturer somewhere else in the chain. And in my opinion, there's no better option for a Merlin park than Alton Towers to get what would be one of Mock's and the country's best coasters. There's other things that I would do if I were in charge of the park, like replacing the Blade and the horrendously ugly Retro Squad rides with a solid collection of flats that would complement the coasters well. Thorpe Park is a place that I think has some very good flat rides that complement their major coasters, and Alton Towers would definitely benefit from well-themed, high-quality flats like Thorpe's. Hex, the Curse of Alton Manor, Gangsta Granny the Ride, and the Alton Towers Dungeon headline a strong dark ride lineup for the park, but they are really lacking in water rides. As of now, I believe it's just Congo River Rapids ever since the removal of their log flume, and even though it was chilly when I went, I'm sure that this place gets really hot in the summer. I'd love to see a well-themed log flume or possibly even a water coaster at Alton Towers. It'd be a great addition to their lineup. Now, I don't want to get too far into predictions or a wish list for this place because it's doubtful that things will go as I say, but something that I strongly believe in is that Alton Towers needs a modern standout coaster to be the headlining attraction at the park. Even though my personal experience there with large crowds, bad operations on some rides, and tons of closures was subpar compared to what I'd expect to be normal, I can't deny the beauty and overall quality that Alton Towers has. It's a special place. The last piece of the puzzle, in my opinion, is that slight improvement to their supporting cast, and that one coaster that people from all over will come to ride. If this park makes that adjustment like I hope they will, watch out because Alton Towers will grow from a resort to a destination and make its way into the conversation of one of the world's best theme parks, and I can't wait to see that happen. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, I recommend liking this video, checking out other stuff the channel has to offer, as well as subscribing because I'm really starting to get into the groove of making videos and have a ton of really interesting projects in the works that you won't want to miss. I visited Alton Towers on March 31st and April 1st of this year and really enjoyed my time there. This video was made to give my thoughts on the park as well as identify the one major problem holding it back from being truly elite. As for the time period of when the Extreme Spinner or other major addition could be built, I'd say definitely give it a while. The return of Nemesis is enough to keep guests buzzing for a few years, and after some possible other changes that I mentioned like the removal of Spinball Whizzer and addition of a new flat ride is then when this new coaster could be built. Obviously this is all speculation and I probably got into it way too much in the part of the video where I'm trying to close things out, but I, and I'm sure a lot of other enthusiasts as well, will go crazy if this actually happens. Imagine Ride to Happiness, but it's a terrain coaster and themed as some, I don't know, demonic spinning torture device. Anyway, that's all for today's video. Once again, consider subscribing, dropping a like, and leaving a comment with your thoughts on Alton Towers and its possible future. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Join the Discord server if you want to talk with me, some other really cool people who are fans of the channel, and Ruben. And finally, stay tuned to the channel for more coaster content. Goodbye.